If you wash the mud off of a pig, it's still a pig and it's still unclean. Scripturally, it's called tameh. It is unclean. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 1 of a double Torah portion, Tazria, Metzora. These two Torah portions, we talk about things that make us unclean and the process by which we become restored, brought back to a state of being clean. And we're not talking about dirt under the fingernails here. We're talking about that which affects us ritually and spiritually. Now, before we get into our subject matter today, let me just mention something to you very quickly. And that is that if you've not already done so, if you would hit the subscribe button, and if you enjoy these videos, if you take just a moment to hit the like button. These two actions actually help us quite a bit to get our material out to a larger audience. So if you can do so, if you enjoy them, like them, if you want to be more connected to us, subscribe. If you want notices when we release a new video, you can hit the bell. And all of that is very much appreciated. Now, let's go on to our material. There are three main philosophies concerning life. One is hedonism. We know this famously as sex, drugs, and rock and roll is the biggest idea of that. Do what you want is the whole of the law. So said a very famous occultist. And so it's about living life for the pleasure of the physical realm, enjoying life to the full to make the body feel good and be happy. Unfortunately, our bodies are not necessarily designed to keep up with our lust for life. Can we put it that way? And the direct opposite of that is asceticism. This is the idea of denying the physical in order to achieve the spiritual goal. Buddhism, Baha'i, Islam, Hinduism are all forms that have roots in asceticism to some degree. Maybe one would think of the Roman Catholic nuns or the monks in the monasteries that have hidden themselves away from the pleasures of marital life. They've taken vows of silence, poverty, celibacy, in order to deny the body an attempt to override their spiritual goals, if you will. Of these two, then, hedonism worships the physical and denies the spiritual. Asceticism enthrones the spiritual at the cost of the physical. That was an observance of Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, and may his memory be for a blessing. The third situation or form of life experience is the Torah. One may even go so far as saying, well, it's Judaism as we currently understand it. But the Torah in particular, the first 5 books of Scripture, teaches us to set apart that which is physical in order to elevate it. We don't deny the physical, we embrace it. But we don't embrace it to worship it. We embrace it to elevate it and lift it up to a higher and more spiritual, lofty goal. We learn about the spiritual from our observances in the physical. The two work together to teach us what Yah is trying to reveal of himself to us. We understand that when we walk in a high level of the spiritual realm, it is in order to benefit those that are yet around us struggling in their physical life. And so the goal is never to be so spiritual that we don't have to focus on the physical at all. The two, again, they work together. And so the body becomes a vehicle for the Father's presence. I love the way that the Hasidic mind works in Orthodox Judaism as they describe how that you and I are a diffuser And that is that whatever environment that the Father has placed us in is by His design. And it is His desire then that we be filled with Him, and that as we are filled with Him, that we diffuse then His reality through our living to those that are around us. So the more we receive of Him, it is for the benefit of those who live in our environment. So when we come to chapter number 12 of the book of Vayikra, and we began to read about the birthing process that a woman goes through in either delivering a son or a daughter. The initial reading in this chapter says that if a woman has a son, then she is to be considered unclean for 7 days. And after those 7 days are accomplished, she adds another 33 days for a total of 40, where her body heals, her body is being restored, and where she is in a process of being returned and restored to ritual purity. If she gives birth to a daughter, then she is to be considered unclean for 14 days. And then the additional days are 66 for a total of 80 days. Now, why does it take twice as long for a daughter? Does that say to us that daughters are somehow less than sons? Well, actually, it's the reverse. And let me explain. You see, when there is something that is set apart in us, the Hebrew word here is kedusha. When an existing degree of set apartness or holiness exists in us, and then it departs, the void or the vacuum, if you will, that is left over is filled with that then that is unclean, tamayah. It takes longer then for that to be processed out. So the reason that a daughter takes longer than a son is because a daughter in the womb is a greater level of set apartness. How so? When a mother is going through the birthing process, when she conceives, she carries this child in her womb until it develops to the place of being ready to be born, she is operating in those 9 months as a co-creator, a co-giver of life with Yah, our Father. When she is carrying a daughter, she is carrying another additional co-creator, co-giver of life, potentially in her womb. A son is a great blessing. It's a great honor to have a son. But when a woman is carrying a daughter, it's an even greater honor in that she is bringing about the life of another woman who can give birth and propagate, refill the earth according to the Father's command originally in the garden. Therefore, it is a greater set apartness to give birth to a daughter than to a son. The greater that which has been removed that is set apart, the greater period of time is required in order for it to be restored. Now, let's take from that a very important principle. When you and I walk righteously, that righteous part of us grows and becomes enlarged. Simultaneously, the capacity for evil also increases. So if a righteous man that is very righteous ceases to walk righteously and turns to unrighteousness, he won't fall a little ways, he will fall to a great measure. Likewise, one who has walked unrighteously in a very large capacity and lived an evil life, when they are born again, their capacity for righteousness is not small, but great. How great the redemption that Yeshua has brought for us. We'll expand on this a little bit further tomorrow. Until then, shalom.